Okay, Tanner McNally doing a visual roof inspection. This is going to be, sorry, the drone gets a little bit pixelated sometimes. We're looking at an older architectural shingle. This appears to be either a GAF or OC. We're showing some pretty heavy degranulation and thermal blistering and cracking on this roof. It's worse the higher up, the hotter it goes up in the attic, as you can kind of see on these sections of the roof. So really need to focus on exhaust ventilation on your home. We've got a couple little flappers right here, these 4-inch flappers. These would all be replaced with brand new black, fully brazed systems. That way you're not dealing with the same problems. All those pipe jacks down low would also be replaced. Those are the flashings that go around the pipes. Over here we're looking at a couple of RV49s. These are the old plastic version of RV49s, which we would swap for a continuous ridge vent system, which would go up here. The continuous ridge vent would give you a thin film of air pulled throughout the entire attic versus localized airflow at each specific little ridge vent. The benefit of this is you're going to get, first off, better ventilation. We can usually double the exhaust ventilation on a home by switching to continuous ridge venting, and we're not going to deal with punctures in a roof and localized airflow. So with these systems right here, we're just going to be pulling air to this area and skipping all of the sections in between. So all these areas are going to bake, and then this will be ventilated. So with that, we can get you better ventilation and a better, more modern roofing system. Same issues as below, degranulation for sure, and some thermal blistering. You're missing a little shingle right next to that guy. We're missing a handful of shingles on this side of the roof, another cracked RV49 right there. Missing a handful of shingles on this side. I didn't see any other missing shingles throughout the roof. With the number of missing shingles you have on the roof, it's probably not the world's best claim for insurance, because I'm sure we can get one side covered, one side sloped out, that's covered by insurance. However, getting the full roof covered would be somewhat unrealistic, and putting a claim on your record for only, half to a quarter of the roof with your deductible in mind wouldn't usually make sense for most folks. Happy to go into it in more detail, but that's just my thoughts based off this, of what we've seen thus far. Over here up on the ridge, we can see they missed a couple of nail heads on the original installation, so these should be caulked over, these nail heads. What we do is we not only caulk over them, we'll put a little section of waste shingle over the top of these. That's then caulked it down, so you never have an exposed nail on these shingles. That means it's going to be less maintenance and less upkeep for you as a homeowner. Coming down, the shingles on this slope are in much better shape, much less degranulation, which is kind of traditional for a southern facing or non-southern facing slope. What we usually see in Boise with oxidized shingles is they're going to retain granules worse than an SPS modified shingle will, because they're baked in a kiln and they're already drier and more desiccated just from the factory. So that's why we're going to see a little bit faster degranulation and failure out of these. There's a little missing ridge cap shingle next to all the pigeons. I'm pretty sure this is a gaff shingle. It's based off the cut. Over here we've got some drip edge. Of course all this drip edge would be included, and another missing shingle right there. All this drip edge would be included, all of the flashings on the roof. Everything with the roofing system except for the pipes would be replaced. Here we've got a little 4-inch flapper. This would be replaced as well. Here is the other side of that slope, and we're showing a lot more degranulation over here. Let's see. The valley detail they ran for your roof on the original install is not my favorite. This is actually not a warranted install by any shingle manufacturer. This is kind of like a California valley. However, they didn't run a bleeder shingle up the valley, so you would need a shingle running diagonally through here that these shingles run into for a warranted system from a manufacturer. I don't like any kind of flexed through valleys or shingled through valleys. We run all metal valleys. The reasoning is metal flexes through valleys really well. shingles are not made to flex through valleys. So if you look at this space underneath, we can see where these shingles are kind of opening up underneath those second tabs and allowing, first off, they're flexed beyond where they should normally be flexed, especially for a roof this steep. And second off, they're going to allow for water intrusion points underneath the shingle where water can flow back up through. We do all metal valleys, and with the design of your roof, I think metal valleys would look really good as well. Over here, this is where I said there was a few missing shingles, and we can kind of see them. See one up here. This is just see if I can keep up with Riley. This right here is just showing the fiberglass matting. That white around the outside edge is the fiberglass mat of a shingle. It's not actually missing. And then down here we can see another missing shingle right here, a corner missing right here, that corner we pointed out earlier, a flip tab right here, and then a whole section that's torn out right here. And another one down there as well, actually. So you definitely could get this side sloped out. I don't think that would be a big problem. I just don't think there's a value prop there for you as a homeowner, keeping everything in mind with premiums and rates and everything like that. In this little field right here, shingles are in better shape, just with less sun exposure, which makes sense. Over here, you can really see what I was talking about with the valleys. You can see this shingle right here has a whole hump in it from being flexed in this valley and overextended through there. And you can see these spaces throughout them where they're really being pushed in this valley. This is, like I said, why we don't do any of these kinds of valleys, because flexing this shingle through this transition right here is just so hard on it. And if we have a metal valley that floats out that transition and then shingles running in on both sides, because shingles are made to be laid flat upon your roof. And if we run them flat on the other side, we're doing great. But if we flex them through that area, we're just looking at potential problems down the road. Here's another view of that same face. Of course, these same pipe jacks over here would be replaced. All of these, just the pipe itself is what stays. I might want to throw an extender on this little pipe over here, just because she's so short. Here's a close-up of the shingles in the field. Tell this one's kind of popping up, this old RV49. Like I said, there's a bunch of problems with these RV49s that I really don't like. And that's why we kind of stay away from them. We're looking at the damage again. Here's that one that I said might need a little extender on it. It's kind of compressed down right now. We'll have to see if it would need to have an extension put on. You can just see a clear difference in between the sun exposure and not sun exposure. Over here, I got the nice spire, which is a cool design. These nice little valleys over here are looking okay. Like I said, there could be some better metal work. That's where I think we could really, so I think this design over here would really shine with something cross-colored accentuating it right here, like a black valley or something along those lines. Because it's certainly a cool design that you don't see every day. And here's that same valley detail that I was talking about earlier. You can see they're really flexed in these areas up here. And getting this to a nice crisp line with a W valley would look much better. Not only aesthetically, but performance-wise as well. You can see that same issue up there. And over here to the side of the house, you can see another pipe jack and the RV49, and then some step shingles going down right here. These step shingles are looking okay. At least we have some clearance between the siding and the roof. A lot of times we won't see that, so it's great to see that. Down here you've got a little tiny kick-out flashing. It's super, super tiny. We want to put a bigger one in, like 2 or 3 inches. That way we can really redirect the water away from the siding and not running back behind your system, back into this gutter over here. And I don't know why some of your pipe jacks are compressed down. Over here we can see the other little area next to the chimney. You can see the siding is Still nicely set off the roof deck there. Code is 1.5 inches. I'd love to cut everything back to 1.5 inches. A lot of folks don't love the look though. It's kind of up to you on that side of things. We'd be modifying your siding. I'll have to float that out there. Those are in pretty good shape over here. Nothing crazy. Like I said, a little bit of thermal blistering, a little bit of pock marking, but nothing crazy. Over here, we'll see if Riley comes back in this corner. We're going to see how close the siding is. So it looks like it got a little bit closer. It does look like it gets a little bit closer. So we want to trim this back for sure to at least match the section up there. And then preferably trim it all back to 1 inch, 1.5 inches, somewhere around there with your approval. A couple more little flappers over here we have to replace. Not a big deal. All the strip edges, of course, included. Here on the lower slope area, on the little overhang, siding at least has some space in between the roof deck. Until our flashing is starting to pop up these shingles right here. I prefer if that was done a little bit differently, but it's not the end of the world as it is right now. See those exposed nails in there too, all over the place. Transition right here, we can see the drip edge around the gutter, nicely over the top of. Fortunately, it looks like all the way around. Yes, it looks like all the way around. And the gutters are nice and clean too. You've been doing a good job of keeping those clean. Over here, we got a couple sections where you see how right here the siding is so close to the roof deck. We would have to trim these areas back. Like this is way, way too close to at least matching the area above this, but not the end of the world as it sits right now once we trim it back. If you were okay with us trimming this back to 1.5 inches to 1 inch, that would be awesome as well, just to get more, to allow water to escape that section easier and faster without creating as many problems of standing up in there and eating away your true wood siding. Little low slope valley right here. We probably want to do this in something slightly different. I'd like to do this in a low slope material just because of the location and the pitch of it, the slope of it, and how much water we have coming down in this field. I probably want to do this in either EPDM or peel and stick or solid metal, either one of the three. That way we have a nice transition line right here and we can really disconnect this from having shingles in it, because all this water is tearing down here, sitting on this field, pooling up and shooting underneath each individual shingle break, which is going to cause problems if it hasn't already, especially with ice damming and freeze thaw cycles. We definitely want to change how this is run over here. Okay, looks like that's pretty much it. Tanner McNally signing off.